welcome back to the 501st Hangout, and today we're going to be looking at Bad Batch Season 3, my personal favorite of the 3 seasons, and just looking at what makes it so great, and just some of my thoughts overall on the series. Without further ado, we'll get straight into it with talking about some of the character arcs that happened and that were finished in this season. Starting with Crosshair. Crosshair was a very interesting take on the clone trooper in Season 1, he actually obeyed Order 66 and went through with the Empire, much to the shock of, I'd say, everybody back when this show first premiered. Everybody kind of thought that the Batch was going to be fighting the Empire together, but Crosshair joined it, which made a very interesting group dynamic throughout the entire series. And near the end of Season 2, he started to turn and realize that the Empire didn't really care about him or his brothers. And in Season 3, we finally see his redemption arc of him taking care of Omega, becoming like a father figure, second to Hunter and Wrecker almost. And overall, it was a very fitting and concluding part of his character arc. And yeah, I say they really did round him off very nicely in the end. Next, we will talk about Omega's character arc. In Season 1, it came as a shock to everybody involved, I think, when we were introduced to the first female clone ever. And throughout most of Season 1, she mostly seemed like a fish out of water. She was on Kamino her entire life, and she had no idea what dirt even was. And we kind of got to see her grow. Through Season 2, we got to see more of her training with the Batch. And through Season 3, we got to see how she applied the training into situations she found herself in, and just how she fit into the group as an official member of the Bad Batch, and how she's kind of like their child, but she's still all grown up in the end, and will forge her own path in the future with the Rebellion. A very nice ending to her character arc as well. We also get a short and sweet character arc for the other female clone, Emery Carr. She started out as like a loyal scientist to the Empire, and throughout the season we saw how more and more of this like Imperial experiments were not great, and that she really disagreed with a lot of the points of views that Hemlock and his scientists and their teams had on like the specimens and like Project Necromancer, and we really got to see how she fits in with the rest of the clones, because she is a clone, and I think it was a very interesting way to make her turn to like the light. And I mean, I thought they were going to kill her off almost, but they didn't, and I think it'll be very interesting to see where she ends up. She goes off with Echo to find Rex and presumably Gregor and Wolf, and we'll see maybe where she ends up. I also kind of want to talk about the Bad Batch's arc as a whole, the entire squad, how the death of Tech and how Echo leaving their squad kind of affected them, and how we really got to see how they adapt to their situation, and how they went from a group of soldiers to a group of protectors and almost peacekeepers in the end, it seems like, with the last season, or the last scene, on Pabu with Omega leaving. And I think the Bad Batch really had a great, sense of finality in that final episode there. Next, I'm going to talk about Tantiss, and basically what I thought was very interesting about Tantiss. Tantiss is based off of Mount Tantiss from the Heir to the Empire series on the planet Wayland, spelled with an E, not an A. And in the end of Bad Batch, we see that Grand Moff Tarkin, I think he was governor at the time, but he shuttered the facility and, made way for more funding to go towards Project Stardust, aka the Death Star. And I wonder that if over time Tantiss will kind of become what it was in the Legends series, of kind of just this giant warehouse. But when it was alive, it had a lot of interesting experiments going on. Obviously, Project Necromancer, which relates back to the Emperor probably returning in Rise of Skywalker, and how he wasn't as powerful as he was, probably because the project was stopped. And we got to see the Zilla Beast again on Tantiss, which was also a really cool thing to see. I mean, I loved that arc. It's like almost a kaiju arc for Star Wars, and I hope we do get to see Zilla Beasts in more media, possibly live action. I think that'd be really cool. And then the specimens, or where Omega was taken, aka the Vault. Um, very interesting, like, way of like describing that. I don't like they. I think probably go hand in hand with Project Necromancer. Um, Obviously, their blood was tested somehow for midichlorian counts and whatnot, and we also saw that with Omega, and Ventress came back, and she's obviously important somehow. But I'm glad that we didn't really see that. I'm glad that we got to see Omega go off to fight the rebellion, and we'll talk about that in the end. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about Hemlock and his character a little bit. I really liked Dr. Hemlock. I think he is like the personification of he thinks everything is going to go his way. Because most of the time it does. He is like Thrawn almost, of like a mastermind. He is usually 2 steps ahead until the finale, where he kind of just got screwed over by his own confidence. And that really is an interesting way of killing off characters. Again, that is how Thrawn was like exiled in Rebels Season 4. But Hemlock as a character is also truly almost like terrifying. He sees these children as just, I mean, specimens, which is a common trope, I feel like, for these kind of like science-based children involving experiments where like the main bad guy doesn't really care about them, but it was done very well here. He's also very comparable to Crosshair with his hand tremor, and that's another reason why I think Crosshair really hates Tantus and Hemlock, because he sees Hemlock in himself. And overall, I really liked Hemlock as the overall main villain of the series. I think Rampart was a small villain, but I think Hemlock really showed the true terror of like the science department of the Empire. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the end scene here and my thoughts on that. The end scene features Omega going back into the cave that she met Ventress in, with a ship built from what looks to be the remaining pieces of the Havoc Marauder, which I think is awesome, and she is stopped by Hunter, because he knows that she's trying to run away to the rebellion, and I think the little dialogue they have between each other, well, is also, I think, very common for these, like, coming-of-age stories, where the father has to, like, accept that his daughter or son is grown up and is going to join a fight or the fight. I think it is done perfectly here. We get to see, I mean, older Omega, older Hunter, and we get to see how they still have, or how Hunter still sees himself as Omega's father figure, and how Omega still sees herself as a very capable soldier, and that the rebellion needs her, and he just has to come to terms with that. And I think it is played beautifully, especially with the music, which I will get into. I love music, and I think just having Omega going to fight in the rebellion is a perfect send-off to her character. It makes so much sense, and I'm so glad they did it. And yeah, now we'll talk about the music. If you watched one of my Ahsoka videos, you probably know that I love talking about this music, because I ranted for about 5 minutes in that video. I'll try and keep it shorter. Kevin Kiner returning to another animated series and absolutely blowing us away with his use of just every possible thing you can imagine, I suppose. He has the traditional Star Wars. He has some light motifs in there, but then he does something completely different with like the tense music and the like a computery like percussion-y noises, and he really just knows how music goes with the scene. I think he's obviously comparable to the best, being John Williams and Hans Zimmer, and the likes of those absolute giants in the movie music industry, but I think he really should be more appreciated. If you go listen to the soundtrack, you will see what I mean. I mean, he weaves each Bad Batch's member like theme. Like, he gives each member a theme, and he like weaves it in between like each episode and stuff, and it's great to see. And I just think that he did an awesome job again. I hope he gets to do a full feature film. Honestly, I think he could do really well. I think he's probably up for it, and I would love to see a movie with his name in the credits. I'm gonna talk a little bit about like what's next with these characters. First of all, what's not next? The remaining Bad Batch members that are alive are Hunter, Crosshair, Wrecker, and Echo. I'm glad they killed off Tech and kept him dead. So we'll start there. Hunter, we saw as an old man, can't really do much anymore. We didn't get to see Hunter or old Wrecker and Crosshair, but I imagine they're in a similar state to Hunter. Crosshair's shooting hand has also been chopped off by one of the clone assassins, so he isn't really a soldier anymore. Echo is currently helping the clone movement and whatnot with Rex, but I think that will fail inevitably, and I think he probably will end up being killed. Hopefully he isn't killed off screen, but I just say that because we only see Rex, Wolf, and Gregor in Rebels. Omega is currently fighting the Rebellion, or fighting with the Rebellion, I should say, fighting the Empire. It's like a similar thing to Rex now, where if we see any blonde like woman in like live action, we could be like, oh, that's Omega. It's probably not. Well, if we want, or if Dave Filoni wants us to see her, he will either put her in something or let us know that a cameo we think is hers. Definitely her. But I think we probably will see her, and hopefully we see her in live action. That would be pretty cool. But what's next for, I guess, the state of Star Wars animation and Dave Filoni? Star Wars animation has kind of come to a halt with the release of Tales of the Empire. I recently watched it. I will probably do a video on it. I thought it was better than Tales of the Jedi, in my opinion. I don't know why. Just really like that. Dave Filoni is currently presumably working on the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, along with the other couple of Star Wars movies slated to release soon, or relatively soon. And the whole creative team behind Bad Batch, I assume, is still working with Lucasfilm and Disney. And I don't think we will see any of the main Bad Batch clones other than Omega in anything else. I really think this is the end of an era. And I call that the Dave Filoni clone era, which started in 2002 and ended May 1st? Is that when it came out? May 1st. And yeah, it's almost sad, but it's a bittersweet thing. And I don't think there's really anything else to do with this animation style or company, I guess, division elsewhere, unless they want to release a new animated show, which I would love. So, kind of a rant there, but we'll get into my final thoughts. I said I thought Bad Batch Season 3 was the best Bad Batch season. And I think I can confidently give a ranking now. I think Bad Batch Season 3, Bad Batch Season 1, Bad Batch Season 2, all of these seasons had great moments. There were just a lot more filler episodes in the first two seasons, I felt like. And Season 3 just completed multiple characters' arc, completed the entire Bad Batch's arc, and still set up a few things that can be used in the future. And overall, just the storytelling, the characters, and the dialogue, and just everything that goes with telling a story fit really well, and is just a great Star Wars story. I really think that this is one of Disney's hits instead of a miss. I mean, there's a long list of Disney misses, but I think the list of Disney hits is getting longer and longer, but we still have to see what they are going to do now with The Acolyte. I'm going to watch it, and I will give you my thoughts on it. And yeah, I just think Bad Batch Season 3 was a great watch, and a little disappointed that it's over. Didn't get 7 seasons just like the Clone Wars, but hey, it started out as a Clone Wars clone, and it became its own thing. Its own little Bad Batch, you could say. So, that's my thoughts. If YouTube allows comments on this video, comment your thoughts down below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe if you want to see more Star Wars content. I mainly do Star Wars content here. Ring the bell, I guess. And, yeah. Bye. Later, nerds.